We want to build the #1 international baseball league.
Oh, what a catch! What a catch, baby!
Like I said, I feel blessed.
The pitcher grabbed by Schlitter goes for the force of the plate.
Ground ball, double play, game over. Wow!
This is a money ball, gentlemen, and this. Money ball!
Welcome back, everybody, to the Baseball United podcast. We are rocking and rolling with another episode, and today we're joined by a former fourth-round draft pick by the Colorado Rockies and a second-round draft pick by our very own Mideast Falcons, Mr. Dillon Thomas. Dillon, great to see you again, my guy. How's everything been going?
Appreciate it, brother. Everything's been good, man. Life's been good. Just same old grind, man. The grind of baseball.
Yep. What have you been? So last time I saw you, it was last November at our showcase. What have you been up to since then?
Since then, last year after the showcase, I went down to Mexico, played a little bit of winter ball down there in Hermosillo, and then started the year back in Mexico in Oaxaca in February once the season started. I guess it was early March, but once spring season started back up early March, I was in Mexico with Oaxaca for spring training, a little bit at the beginning of the season, and then left, came back, and been playing in the American Association with Fargo.
Was that your first experience in the Mexican League?
So last year before the showcase was my first experience. I went down there for like a month and a half to play the summer season with Oaxaca, and then after the showcase in December, I went down with Hermosillo. That was my first experience with winter ball. So.
Got it. What were both those? What were you able to take away from both those experiences playing in a different country?
Well, the language barrier was, I feel like, the biggest thing. You get so accustomed to playing in the States, it kind of, you flip roles with a lot of the Latin speaking or Latin players that come over and that you play with coming up. You're playing baseball here in America, and you're used to hearing English, and they're learning English to accommodate you and your game, and then you go to Mexico or some of these other countries, and it's the opposite. You gotta learn a different language and kind of try and learn how to integrate yourself in that culture. So I think it was a cool experience for sure, and I definitely enjoyed every second of trying to learn another language and figure that out.
How's your Spanish?
It's mejor, it's better than last year,
Yep.
It's one of those things, if you're not constantly using it, you forget a lot of it. But I felt like when I was down there, especially, at the beginning of this year, I felt like my Spanish was getting pretty good, and, I was getting real comfortable with out in public, just, dropping some phrases on people, especially at restaurants. That was my favorite thing, was going to restaurants and trying to act like I knew more than I actually probably did.
I love it, man. I love it. So you mentioned you're playing with Fargo right now in the American Association. How's that been going? Because your last 2 years with them, you've kind of been killing it at the plate. What's coming together for you?
Yeah, right now, unfortunately, I've been dealing with a little bit of like some wrist stuff, so I haven't really been in the lineup, but still been there, kind of helping the guys out, and coaching a little bit of first base, seeing the game from a different perspective, different view. But just honestly, I think last year was just a long year, so with playing in so many different places, the body kind of telling me I probably need to slow down a little bit and kind of reset. But before the injury this year, I really felt like I was about to get locked in. I feel like the last 2 years, I've kind of really dove into, hitting and trying to learn different things, and, looking at my swing and comparing it to other guys, seeing where I can improve, and just constantly trying to challenge myself to, be the best version of myself.
Dillon, are you a big film guy? Are you one of the guys who's constantly watching their swing, trying to refine everything?
So I'll be honest, in the past, no, not really. It's kind of just off a feel, but, I started following, with social media being so big, everybody's a hitting coach now. But, there's a couple guys on there that I really like some of the stuff that they say, and, I kind of dove into it. And one of the biggest things that, I kind of learned from one of the guys was he was always saying, film yourself and compare. And so, I thought I'd like Teacher Man is the guy that, I enjoy listening to. He's got a lot of good stuff. Some people don't agree with it, but, I take bits and pieces and kind of try and integrate it into what I do. And, so, I started filming myself, and I found that it definitely helps to be able to look and see what you're doing and then put what you're feeling and what you're seeing together and, try and mash the two.
Right. So you were drafted by the Colorado Rockies, like we mentioned, in 2011. You spent 10, 11 seasons in the minors before you were called up. So as like a true journeyman, Dillon, what would you say are the biggest differences that you've seen in affiliated ball at the minor league level and independent ball like you are in now with the American Association?
I think the biggest difference is just the approach to, each player and in the game itself, and in affiliated ball, unless you're in the big leagues, it's not really about winning. It's, all about development. So as much as they say, they want to win, like that's that comes secondary to, making sure guys are developing. Like I remember we used to go out when I was in affiliated ball, and we'd be on the field for hours before the game, just getting worn out, doing different drills and stuff like that. And it's like, man, like, how am I supposed to go play at 7 o'clock tonight? Like I'm dog tired. We're in the middle of California doing dirt ball reads, bunting, base running, like all this stuff. And independent baseball is more so like, hey, show up, man, and just get ready to play. Whatever you got to do to win tonight, just win.
Got it. Got it. So in 2021, Dillon, you got the call to the big leagues. Bring me into that moment and what that day was like for you.
Oh man, that day was full of emotions. It's one of those things that talk about with your parents over and over. Like, oh, when I finally get the call, like who's it gonna be? Who am I gonna call, mom or dad first? And so, I'm sitting there in the hotel room in Tacoma. We got rained out that Sunday, and I'm sitting there with my fiance and my daughter, and we kind of dozed off. And I see my phone ring, and it's the farm director. And so I'm like, man, like, what's this dude calling me about? And so I pick it up, and he's like, hey, man, like, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I just want to let you know, like, your hard work's paid off. You're going to the big leagues. And so it's just like, dang, like, all right, well, I thought about it, for my entire life, and now it's here. It's like, okay, like, well, get your stuff in order, like, make your call to your parents and everything. And so I tried to call I always said I'd call my dad first because, he answers the phone more than my mom. And
Yep.
man, I'm not exaggerating. I sat there for about 15 minutes going back and forth calling each of their phones. Neither one of them picked up. I called both of them about 20 times apiece. I'm like, man, any other time I call y'all are right by the phone. I was like, but the one day that I have the best news that we'll probably have for a while, like neither one of y'all want to answer.
Who eventually picked up first?
It ended up being my mom, which is funny. And then she freaks out, and I can hear her like yelling in the background, Daryl, come here. Like, but it was something I'll never forget, that's for sure. And, just to be able to share that moment, with them, because it's something that, we've all dreamed of and thought about. And, we all know the sacrifices and everything that got put into it, especially on their part, just from the time that I was a little boy and until a grown man. Because like I said, it took 10 years. So I think I was, 28, 29. So
So when you made your debut, it was in Detroit or was it in Seattle?
in Detroit, so on the
In
road.
Detroit. So you get to Detroit, you finally step on that big league field for the first time. I'm sure somebody came and grabbed your bags for you. You got the full big league treatment. Bring me into that day and just kind of the emotions that you remember from that.
Oh yeah. So I remember, so in Detroit, the hotel we stayed at, I think we stayed at the Birmingham Hotel or something like that, but 30
Yep.
minutes away, like 30, 40 minutes away from the stadium. So, not right there in the stadium. So, we're sitting on the bus, and I'm just sitting in the back of the bus in this seat, just trying to be cool, listening to some music, like trying not to be anxious about, getting to the stadium and seeing like what it's all about. But I remember showing up, and like one of my first thoughts was, I wonder like what number they're gonna give me. Like, am I gonna have, one of those big numbers like, most rookies usually do? Because during spring training that year, I think I wore number 68. And I was like, you know what, like whatever. It's not a great number, but it is what it is. Like I'll rock it if that's what I'm in the big leagues. It don't matter. I remember getting to my locker and I had like a number 27 jersey hanging. And I was like, oh, let's go. Like I
Ooh.
got a show number. Like let's go. But just getting there, that maneuvering my way through the clubhouse and stuff, and walking down out onto the field for the first time. And like I've seen Comerica Park on TV plenty of times, but you don't really appreciate the beauty of a lot of these stadiums till you're standing there. And I remember just standing there, like looking at the scoreboard, going like, "Dang, like, a scoreboard is a lot bigger than it looks like, it is on TV when you see it." And I was like, just in awe of, stadium and just the whole fact that, I was there. So,
Yeah. So the following year, Dillon, you signed a minor league contract with the Los Angeles Angels, and then you were called up in June of that year for a short stint. What was that like for you? Because you were sharing the field with two of the greatest to ever do it in Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't really. I mean, it's hard when you're in the middle of it, but didn't really take a step back to appreciate who I was sharing the locker room and sharing the field with. Like my first game with the Angels, Shohei was on the mound, and I think we were playing Boston, and I recorded the first out of that game. It was like a fly ball to left field, and so like just getting into it, like I said, once the game started, I didn't really think anything of it, but like looking back on it now, I'm like, dang man, like I was in the cage with Shohei, like sitting here just watching this guy, like he's hitting, hopping out of the cage, and I'm stepping right in behind him, taking my cuts and stuff like that, and just, just hanging out with those guys. Like those guys are generational talents, especially Shohei. Like I tell people all the time, they ask about Shohei. I'm like, man, like some of the stuff he would just do in the cage was, just out of this world. Let alone, what everybody sees him do on the field.
Right. Can you give me like a little more in-depth example of something like that? Because I'm so curious if Shohei, Trout, or anybody that really stuck out to you during your time in the big leagues in the way that they went about the game in terms of preparation.
Right. So when Shohei would DH, Shohei would come in to the cage in between at bats. And so like if you're if you're a bench guy, like, kind of like what my role was, bench guy, late inning defender, you kind of hang out in the dugout for the first couple innings, and then you kind of go to the cage because the cage is connected to the dugout. So you go to the cage and you kind of start moving around, getting loose. But after every at bat, when Shohei's DHing, he would go to the cage and get some swings in. So I remember one day, I think we were in, I want to say Atlanta. We're either in Atlanta or Kansas City, but we're in the cage. It's me, Shohei, and Brandon Marsh. And Marsh is sitting there, kind of just chirping Shohei, because Shohei's sitting there, like, he would always set up this little, like, pocket radar to get exit velos from his cage work. And this dude's hitting balls like 115, 117 in the cage off of just, like, nice, easy overhand. I'm like, all right, just, like, 117 rockets to the top of the cage. Like, I'm like, golly, dude. Like, and so Marsh is chirping him about, hey, man, like, I bet I could hit the ball like just as hard, blah blah blah. And Shohei's like, you know what, like, if I don't hit a ball over 115, like I'll buy you a steak dinner, like I'll buy you dinner to wherever you want. And so I'm just sitting here looking at these guys, watching them go back and forth, just listening. And Shohei gets in, and very first ball, he hits one, and it's like 116. And he turns around and looks at Marsh and goes, "Oh, sorry, a little off the end." And I'm like, dang, dude, like, this guy is just unreal. Like, guys hitting balls off the end at 116. Like, dude, that's a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of guys don't even touch that, but let alone off the end, like, in the cage.
That's insane, man. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean,
Dylan,
when people say that he's like a different dude, like that guy is just different. Like he's not human. Like, he's a
no,
machine.
he's also a physical specimen too. I don't think people really understand how big this guy is.
Yeah, yeah, he's huge. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't realize he ran as well as he did too. So like in 21, when we played the Angels, so the road team is in the first base dugout at Angel Stadium. I remember sitting there, top step. It's like a Sunday day game, and I think he hit like a ground ball in the infield or something, and he took off and it seemed like he took like 4 steps and was at first base. And I was just like, damn, this dude flies. Like, I didn't realize like he ran like that. Like, I knew he threw the ball 100 miles an hour. I knew he had juice, but like he runs like that too. And then so I started paying attention to like his numbers and the amount of bags he gets. And I'm like, dude, this guy just does everything.
Unbelievable. A true generational talent, like you said.
Oh, 100%.
Dillon, so you mentioned earlier that you, during your career, especially at the major league level, you were a role player, a late defender. At what point were you able to kind of lean into that and understand like that was going to be your role at that level and try to be the best version of that role you could be?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get a lot of time my first year in 21 with the Mariners. It was kind of super spotty. So I feel like, your first time you kind of go up, you're just trying to, get your feet settled and figure out where the heck you are. And so like the second year with the Angels, it was more like, okay, man, like I kind of understand like this is my role. I kind of understand like how to approach it. Like I said, hang out in the dugout and then go to the cage and just slowly start moving around, doing different things, like understanding how to go through my days and, how to prepare myself for potential moments. And you sit there and you watch the game and you just play the game in your head as if you're the manager and like, okay, well, I see they have such and such in their bullpen. They bring in a lefty, I'm probably not going to hit here, but if they bring in a righty, I might pinch hit for, him. I might have to run. I might, go play the outfield late in the game to replace one of the guys. So it's kind of like you're just sitting back and you kind of learn where to expect yourself to go in. And you just try and prepare the best that you can for those moments.
Being a pretty much everyday outfielder in the minor leagues, I'd imagine that adjustment to kind of make sure you're ready at any point during the game at the major league level was pretty difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'll honestly say that, I mean, hitting is the toughest part. Like, not being used to pinch hitting and then having to go in late in the game against, guys that are coming out of the bullpen throwing 97 with nasty breaking balls. It's like, all right, man, like I'm just going up there, like hopefully running into a heater first pitch, like just trying to be aggressive and not get to the nasty stuff. So that was by far the hardest part. Defense, honestly, was a breeze. You just kind of go stand out there and, you expect the ball to be hit to you because, it's one of those things, once you come in the game, the ball's going to find you. So, like when you're getting put in the game as a, late inning defender, at some point the ball is going to be hit your way. Just be ready for it and be prepared for the moment and the situation.
So, Dillon, like we mentioned, you were a second-round draft pick to the Mideast Falcons in last year's Baseball United draft, and then you also got the chance to participate in last year's showcase. What was that experience like for you during the showcase, being one of the first players to ever play professional baseball in Dubai?
Oh man, it was such a blessing. I've appreciate everything that Baseball United has done, and just for allowing me to be a part of it. That's something that I'll cherish forever. That's one of my favorite baseball memories. Just seeing how everything came together was truly amazing. Being able to like it was nice, like when you play the game of baseball, obviously you're competing and you're playing to win the game. But I think it was cool how like both teams really like understood, why and what we were there actually doing. So like on the field, like you felt both sides, yeah, we're playing against each other, we're competing, but both sides were kind of on the same page, and we were just out there having a good time, and it truly was one of those experiences that makes you fall in love with baseball all over again. And I remember there was a specific moment I was like standing, I want to say I was on like second base, and Didi was playing short, for, what was it, the East team, right? I can remember. I think they were East.
You were on
Yeah.
East, I think, right?
Was I?
I think so, yeah. I
Okay,
think.
so I don't know. I can't remember. But either way, Didi's playing short. And I'm like just standing there, and, we're in the ring of fire. So, you don't really play baseball games with, fully enclosed roof. And I looked up at one point, and like the moon was like shining right through the middle of it. And I remember like standing there just looking straight up, and I felt like a little kid, like just staring into the sky. And I remember telling Didi, like, hey man, like look at the moon, like look how, sick that looks. And it's just like one of those moments where like you felt like, everything stopped and you got to truly just appreciate it, appreciate what you were truly there doing. And, like once again, when the fireworks went off all around the stadium, that was another moment where it was just like, man, like this is one of those unreal life experiences that, you know, just grateful to be a part of and grateful to have the opportunity for.
Yeah, Dylan, how important is it to you to be a part of this league and grow this game that you love so much?
It's definitely important for me, and I take a lot of pride in being one of the first guys going over there and doing it, and having the opportunity to help grow the game because, like I said, getting to experience baseball in another country when I like went to Mexico. There's so much that the game has to offer, and it's the game of baseball goes way beyond just the game itself. There's so many life lessons in it. There's so many things that people can learn. Like we always talk about as players, you know, if the world could experience what a locker room is and like what the team is, like how much better of a place the world would be. So being able to just take that to different parts of the world and allow people to see, people from different walks of life coming together to enjoy, just a game. I think it's such an important thing for people to see and, for kids to see because the next generation are the kids or the people who are going to do it and continue to, build off of that. So I think it's important and, I take a lot of pride in that.
Were you surprised at all, Dylan, at like the how many people showed up and the atmosphere overall during those two games?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's one of those things that with it never being done before, you don't really know what to expect. So you kind of go into it like, all right, well, you know, I know what I've built it up to be in my head, so we'll see, what happens when we get out there and with the band and everything. Like I didn't expect a band to be, at a baseball game. Like the last time I heard a band when I was on the field was like high school football. So, having that was really cool and I enjoyed that, especially being in the outfield with them right behind you was loud, but it just made the atmosphere that much better and just one of those things that you don't get to experience that in anywhere else because, there's not really bands at baseball games, but it was just definitely a cool experience.
You mentioned earlier, Dylan, how you felt that everyone on both teams, the East and the West, knew that they were there for a greater mission. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we all understood that we were the first to go do something. Like, I think the first day we got there, show up to this cricket pitch, and I'm not really too familiar with cricket, and so you're sitting there looking at the field, and it's just all this grass, but you can see like the work that they've done to put the base pass in and all that, and you're looking around, all the people just walking around the stadium, just working, and it's like each day that we came for practice, it was like a little bit more was done, a little bit more was done, a little bit more was done. And then finally, like game day, you see the final product. And it's just like, man, like, what it took for everybody to, come together, like, let alone like the players, like playing the game is the easiest part, but like everything that it took to get to that point and to put it all together, like we had the easiest part and all of it was just to have fun and put a good product on the field for the fans to see and just to show our passion for it and love for the game and have fun.
I think one of the great things that our organization did during that event too was make it a fully immersive experience that you otherwise wouldn't really get at a professional baseball game with the fan fest outside, with the Diamond Club up top, and then with the cabanas on the field. I thought that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, having like those basically VIP tables that you'd normally see in like a club roped off right there on the field. As an outfielder, Dylan, how did you like playing with those right in foul territory?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool. I thought it just added another aspect to the game, and it was like I said, it was different than what we're used to. And I mean, honestly, the part that sucked the most about playing was I didn't get to experience all the cool stuff that was going on around the game. Like that was, like you said, the cabanas and everything. Like sitting there, running out on the field, I'm like, dang man, like be cool to sit there with a bottle and, watch a game, like, especially in Dubai. Like, it'd be a sick experience. And then they said the Diamond Club, I saw some clips of that and the Fan Fest and everything. It just, I mean, they did a really good job, making it, super fan friendly and, inviting to everyone. And I just hope that, it continues to grow and that more people are bought into it, because I know, like I said, if I wasn't playing in the game, I would have loved to have bought a cabana and been down there on the field.
Absolutely. And I think to your point, Dylan, truly believe that we are going to continue to grow. And I truly believe we're going to be one of the world's premier international sports leagues. And I think that has a lot to do with our leadership here at Baseball United. What has your experience been with our leadership? What have you
Oh
seen from
man,
them that maybe you haven't seen in other organizations that you played with?
yeah, I mean, just the passion, like every time Cash speaks, I find myself just so locked into the stuff he's saying. Like, as a leader, with sports, like you view leadership, in a certain tier. You look at leaders, you hold leaders to a certain standard. And just watching like him speak, like, and like I've learned a lot about leadership just from watching him go about his business. And let alone all the other guys that don't need any words spoken about them. Their resume says enough for themselves. But like I said, when Cash speaks, everybody in the room listens. And I think that's cool. Like, you don't see that very often. Most of the time people are speaking and you'll find like eyes starting to wander because guys are getting long-winded and stuff. But when Cash speaks, like, everybody listens and is locked in. And shoot, I mean, I felt super motivated to bring more energy on my part to the game, just because of how he was talking about everything. And like, with that type of leadership, like you said, it's only going to continue to grow and get bigger and bigger.
To your point there, Dylan, after we have meetings here at Baseball United where Cash is speaking, I'm fired up just as well. Like, it's so, every time, it seems like every single time he talks, it's so motivational and it's so inspiring. And it makes everybody in this organization want to be the best version of themselves, because we're all, from top to bottom, are bought in on this idea, in this dream, in order to make it a reality, that we all have to be performing at an elite level. Guys like you on the field, guys like us off the field.
No, definitely 100%. And I mean, that's what you want from a leader. You want somebody that's going to challenge everybody to become the best version of themselves and, push themselves that much harder in whatever aspect it is, because that's what it takes. Like, leaders say what needs to be said. They don't necessarily always say what you want to hear, but they say what needs to be said in order to get people to rise to the level that that they see each individual at. So,
Absolutely. Dylan, what was it like for you? Because you're a young guy, you're 31 years old. What was it like for you sharing the field with these prospects from all these different countries last year that Baseball United brought over, and them kind of looking up to you as a mentor?
yeah, I mean, I thought that was a cool experience. Playing, like I said, playing in the big leagues. I was a role player, and just happy to get in and contribute my part. But when other people are looking to you, especially when you got guys around like Robinson Cano, and and guys are coming up to you asking you questions and stuff, it's like, okay, man, like, I guess I am somewhat in the same boat as these other guys. And I have been blessed enough to play this game at a high level, and I know a thing or two as well. So I think it was just a cool experience to be able to talk with different guys and just enjoy the game, learn, ask questions and bounce things off of each other. Because I mean, as a ball player, that's what you do. You have conversations and you pick each other's brains. And you never know when you're gonna find something, or a little bit that's gonna stick with you, that's gonna help maybe turn something on in your own brain to unlock something. So I mean, I definitely thought it was cool to have the opportunity to talk with guys like Chris Byers, who else, um, Dennis, like talking with Dennis, like watching Dennis, super raw, but God, like he's got some tools, especially for not being in a place where baseball is very prominent. Like, playing catch with that dude. I'm like, golly, this kid's got a freaking rocket, man. Like, he blew me up on a couple throws, and I'm like, all right, like, you can see it in his swing. Like when he takes swings, like the mechanics are there. It's just he hasn't had the at bats to, be able to have, put together an approach like, other guys who have had thousands and thousands of at bats. So I definitely thought it was really cool just seeing ball players from all over the world, and we're all together just out there doing what we love.
Right. So, Dylan, we recently announced our three main events this year: the Arab Classic coming up in November, then the BU Cup next February, and then the full season next October. What was your reaction when you heard that news, especially as it relates to the BU Cup and the full season?
Oh, I mean, just excitement. Everybody's, after last year, leaving the showcase, it was like, all right, like, well, we did it. Like, what's next? What's next? Like, everybody's sitting there just waiting, like, man, I can't wait to get back and do it again. So, to finally see something set, to see some dates set, it's exciting. Now it gives you something to look forward to, something to prepare for. And, like Drew Ward's on my team here in Fargo, and genuinely, I think we talk about it every day. At some point during the day, like playing baseball in Dubai gets brought up, whether it's between just the two of us or somebody else around us. But man, like everybody's excited. It's once in a lifetime experience, and I think we're all just ready to go and let this full season, unfold and get after it.
I imagine when you and Drew Ward are talking about that, other guys on your team are probably picking your brain, saying, "How can I get in this? How can I get involved?"
Oh yeah, everybody. Like at the beginning of the year, I was playing first a lot at the beginning of the year here in Fargo, and guys would get to first base and, hey man, like, how was Dubai? How was Dubai? Oh man, do you know anybody? Like, I want to go too. Like, can you make a call? And it's like, oh yeah, man, I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do. But it's just like everybody wants to be a part of it. And I think that's such a cool thing to have so many different people fired up about it. Not just the people that are involved with it, but people that just play the game and want to try and find a foot in the door to get in, because everybody sees it for what it is, and it's it is a big deal. So just to see how many people are genuinely fired up about it, fires me up even more.
So, Dylan, you actually had one of the best performances of anyone in the showcase. You went 4 for 7. What was it like for you to get your first base knock over there?
Oh man, uh, I mean, like I said, I was just there to enjoy the game and have some fun. But once it got the first one out of the way, I was like, all right, man, like, yeah, we are playing baseball. Like, you can compete a little bit. Like, all right, you got the first one, now go get the second one. I think I want to say the first one was off of Robbie. I think a line drive up the middle that almost hit him, which I'm glad it didn't, because I don't think that I don't think he'd have let me live it down if I'd have taken his head off. But no, it was a good time. And then, like I said, second game, we faced Karan Patel, and he's in this league as well. But I haven't gotten to face him this year, but I've seen him throw and stuff, and I'm like, man, I was like, hey, every time I see him, I'm like, hey, you remember what happened in Dubai? I was like, you don't want me to step in the box? I think I had 2 knocks off of him, and one was an RBI or something. But I'm like, man, KP, you don't want that smoke.
I love it, man. I love it. Um, Dylan, so what do you think about our league potentially? Because I know after everyone's performance last year, a lot of guys got contract offers, whether it was from Mexico, whether it was from the independent leagues. What do you think about our league being kind of a platform for guys to kind of revitalize their careers and get a new start?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think with the state of baseball right now, with there being so very few minor league jobs available because they're just constantly cutting teams, I think it definitely does, just open more doors for guys, that to continue their career. And, with it being in a different country, I think that opens the door to, so many different avenues, whether it's Japan, Taiwan, Korea, Mexico, Venezuela, like all these different countries. I think it only helps guys. Allowing these other teams and other countries to see that guys are willing to step out of their comfort zone, step out of their comfort zone in the U.S. and go play in different countries and different cultures.
Dylan, before we wrap up here, one last question for you. What kind of message do you have for the fans over in the Middle East and South Asia waiting for you guys to get back there and take the field and finally start competing again?
Yeah. Get ready. It's going to be a lot more exciting. Like I said, when you do something for the first time, you're kind of just trying to dip your toes in the water and see what it's all about. But I think that now that everybody's been over there, they gotten their feet wet. I think like it's going to be more about competing, and people are truly going to get to see this game and why all of us love it and fall in love with it, for the first time because I said, seeing guys making diving plays, getting bags, hitting homers, like all this stuff, like seeing the passion that comes out, over the course of a season. Because, when you're playing the two games, the showcase, like I said, everybody was kind of on the same page. We were there to have fun and have a good time. We are competing, but not to the extent of, hey man, like, you got the Falcons, the Wolves, the Monarchs, like we're here to go. Like the Falcons want to take it, like the Falcons are trying to, we want to be the first team to, run the tables and win it all. So I think, once the extended version of the season gets laid out, it's going to be, that much more exciting for the fans. And, I think fans will, take to certain teams because of the style of certain teams and the things that guys, do out there on the field. So it's definitely exciting, and I'm definitely looking forward to, being a part of that.
DT, I appreciate you so much for joining us today on the Baseball United podcast. I'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you guys having me and look forward to getting it rolling again.